Have you ever finished a day where you barely left your house, didn't talk to anyone, and still felt completely drained? Your body didn't move much. You didn't run errands. You didn't deal with major issues. But somehow, you're more tired than after a busy day. If you're an INFJ, this feeling might be very familiar. INFJs are known for being intuitive, thoughtful, and deeply emotional. But they're also known for something else: being tired. Not just tired in the way everyone feels after a long day, but a kind of tired that comes from inside. It's emotional, mental, and sometimes even spiritual. And the most confusing part is, it can happen even when nothing hard happened. You may sit on the couch all day and still feel worn out. You may avoid people and still feel emotionally heavy. You may cancel plans to rest but find your energy is still gone. This is a strange kind of exhaustion. And it leaves INFJs wondering, why am I so tired when I did nothing? The truth is, INFJs experience the world differently. What seems simple to others can be overwhelming to them. Their minds are always running, even when their bodies aren't. They take in emotions, analyze every word, and feel things on a deep level. That energy used doesn't always show up on the outside, but it's working overtime inside. This kind of tired isn't always about action. For INFJs, it's about processing. Their brain and heart are never really off. Even when resting, they might be rethinking a conversation, planning their future, or carrying the emotions of someone else. And that constant inner work takes a real toll. In this video, we're going to look at 6 very real reasons INFJs can feel exhausted, even on days when they did nothing. These reasons have little to do with physical movement and everything to do with how INFJs are wired. So if you've ever wondered why you feel so wiped out when you've barely moved, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Let's look at what's really going on inside the INFJ that causes this kind of deep exhaustion. Here's the first hidden reason INFJs feel drained, even when the day looks quiet from the outside. Reason number 1, absorbing emotions of others. INFJs are like emotional antennas. They don't just sense feelings, they absorb them. If someone near them is anxious, sad, or frustrated, the INFJ feels it too. They don't mean to. It's just how they're built. Even in silence, even without words, the INFJ can pick up on the emotional tone in a room and take it in like a sponge. This ability can be helpful. It makes INFJs amazing listeners, kind friends, and thoughtful partners. They notice when something is wrong before anyone else does. They comfort others naturally, and they often know what someone needs without being told. But all of that emotional awareness comes with a cost. Imagine walking through a room and picking up everyone else's emotional baggage, even if you never talk to them. By the time you leave, you're carrying the weight of 5 or 6 people's moods, along with your own. That's what it's like for INFJs in everyday life. Even on days where they don't leave the house, INFJs can absorb emotions from phone calls, social media, or simply remembering someone else's pain. They replay moments where someone cried or shared something heavy. And even though that moment is over, the emotion stays with them. Sometimes they don't even realize what's happening. They may feel heavy or sad and not know why, until they remember that they talked to a friend who's going through something, or they saw something upsetting online. That emotion doesn't just pass through the INFJ. It stays. It mixes with their own thoughts. And it drains them. Because of this, INFJs often need to be alone, not just to rest, but to release the feelings they've picked up. They need time to sort out which emotions are theirs and which came from someone else. This isn't always easy. It takes reflection, quiet, and space. And if they don't get that space, the emotional buildup can become overwhelming. That's why even quiet days can leave INFJs feeling deeply tired. If they've spent time with someone emotional, or even just watched emotional content, they may feel like they've carried someone else's pain all day. And in a way, they have. This emotional absorption is one of the most draining parts of being an INFJ. It doesn't always look like work, but it's happening behind the scenes, and it's a major reason why INFJs often feel exhausted, even when the day looks simple on the outside. Reason number 2, overthinking and mental replay. INFJs have incredibly active minds. Even when their body is still, their brain is working hard. They overthink almost everything. Conversations, decisions, past events, future plans. And they don't just think about these things once, they replay them over and over, often without meaning to. Let's say an INFJ had a short phone call with a friend. It seems simple, maybe even positive. But later that night, the INFJ starts thinking, did I say something wrong? Was that laugh genuine? Should I have worded that differently? Their brain loops the conversation, searching for meaning, warning signs, or missed signals. This kind of constant thinking can last hours, and it drains them emotionally and mentally. It's not just about worry. INFJs analyze everything deeply. They want to understand why something happened, what it means, and how it might affect the future. They look for patterns. They connect past experiences with current ones. And while this can make them wise and insightful, it also takes a lot of energy. Even on days with no social interaction, the INFJ brain is still active. They might be thinking about their goals, trying to solve a personal issue, or planning how to help someone else. Sometimes they get stuck in thought loops that are hard to break. The mind keeps spinning even when nothing is happening outside. This mental activity isn't just tiring, it can lead to burnout. The INFJ may feel like they've lived through a full emotional day just from their own thoughts. And unlike physical work, there's no clear signal to stop. There's no clock-out time for thinking. It just keeps going until the INFJ forces themselves to rest. Many INFJs struggle to sleep because of this. As soon as they lie down, their brain gets louder. Thoughts they pushed aside during the day rise up. They replay everything and imagine possible outcomes, good and bad. The result? Poor sleep and a tired mind even after a full night in bed. This overthinking isn't something INFJs do on purpose. It's just how their mind works. They crave understanding and clarity. But that search for answers can become exhausting when it never stops. So even if an INFJ did nothing all day, their mind may have been working overtime. And that alone is enough to leave them feeling completely drained. Reason number 3, internalizing stress and suppressing needs. INFJs are good at looking calm on the outside. Even when they're under stress, they don't always show it. They might smile, say they're fine, and keep doing what's expected. But inside, they're carrying stress that builds and builds. And the more they carry it without expressing it, the more it wears them down. One of the reasons this happens is because INFJs don't like to burden others. They're used to being the one who listens, supports, and helps. When they're hurting, they often tell themselves, it's not that bad, or other people have it worse. So instead of reaching out, they keep it inside. This habit of suppressing their own needs creates invisible pressure. They might be stressed about work, family, health, or relationships, but no one around them knows. And since they aren't sharing it, they don't receive support. Over time, that lack of release becomes emotional weight that turns into fatigue. Another part of this is the INFJ's desire to be strong. They often take pride in being dependable. They want to be someone others can count on. So when they're tired or upset, they push it down. They tell themselves to keep going, to keep showing up, to not complain. But that internal effort takes a toll. Even on days when they don't have to do anything, INFJs are often managing this quiet stress. Maybe they're trying to plan for the future. Maybe they're thinking about a problem they haven't solved yet. Maybe they're holding on to emotions from something that happened months ago. And since they're not letting it out, it stays inside and drains their energy. This also affects their physical body. INFJs might feel tired, get headaches, or notice tension in their neck and shoulders, all signs that stress is sitting in their system. And because they're so used to handling things quietly, they may not even notice how much this is affecting them. Over time, this can lead to emotional burnout. The INFJ might suddenly feel overwhelmed by something small, cry for no clear reason, or feel like they can't do anything at all. It's not laziness, it's the body and mind saying, "We've had enough." What makes this more confusing is that on the outside, everything might look fine. No big problems, no major drama. But the INFJ's energy is being drained by the invisible weight they carry inside. That's why INFJs need regular time alone, not just to be quiet, but to let those hidden feelings rise to the surface. They need space to cry, write, talk, or reflect without judgment. Because if they don't let that stress out, it will keep building. And it will keep making them tired, even when they do nothing. Reason number 4, sensory and environmental overload. INFJs are not just emotionally sensitive, they're also physically sensitive to their environment. Bright lights, loud noises, strong smells, or even a cluttered space can make them feel overwhelmed. While others might not notice these things, INFJs pick up on them right away. And when there's too much sensory input, it quickly turns into fatigue. Think about a grocery store. The lights are harsh. Music is playing. People are talking. There are flashing signs, announcements, and constant movement. For most people, it's just a quick errand. But for an INFJ, that 20-minute trip can feel like running a marathon. Their brain is trying to process everything all at once, and it wears them down fast. Even at home, the environment plays a big role. If the space feels chaotic, too much clutter, loud TV, constant interruptions, the INFJ might feel drained within minutes. They need calm, clean, quiet spaces to feel okay. When they don't have that, they struggle to think clearly or relax. This sensitivity also includes temperature, clothing, and texture. Scratchy tags, tight socks, or an uncomfortable chair might not bother most people, but for an INFJ, those small things can add up. They distract the mind and create constant, low-level discomfort that pulls at their energy all day. Screens can be another source of overload. Watching intense shows, reading news, or scrolling through social media full of emotions and opinions, all of it affects the INFJ more than others. It's not just information. It's emotional energy coming at them from every direction. And even if they're just sitting on the couch, that flood of input can leave them feeling tired and anxious. INFJs need to be careful about their environments. A peaceful room, soft lighting, and quiet time can make a huge difference in how much energy they have. Without that peace, even doing nothing can become exhausting, because their system is trying to protect itself from sensory overload the whole time. That's why some INFJs need more sleep than others. It's not because they're lazy. It's because their brain and body are constantly working harder than most people realize. Managing noise, emotion, and discomfort takes real effort, even if the day looks simple from the outside. To recharge, INFJs often need total stillness. No music. No talking. Just silence and calm. That's when their nervous system finally gets to rest. And when they don't get that kind of space, they stay in a low-energy state, never fully recovering. Reason number 5, late-night mental or creative activity. Many INFJs come alive at night. When the world is quiet, their mind finally has room to wander. They might stay up journaling, writing stories, thinking about life, or just imagining future possibilities. The night feels safe, no interruptions, no demands. It's when their creativity flows best. But this quiet burst of energy comes with a price. While most people use nighttime to wind down, INFJs often use it to process everything that happened during the day. They think about conversations, analyze emotions, and explore their thoughts without distraction. This kind of reflection is important to them, but it also keeps their brain active when it should be resting. Sometimes they don't even notice how late it's gotten. They get lost in thought or in a creative project. Then they look at the clock and realize it's 2 or 3 in the morning. And even when they try to sleep, their mind keeps going. They replay old memories, plan for the next day, or create stories in their head. This late-night activity might feel productive, but it cuts into the deep sleep they need to fully recharge. Even if they sleep in the next day, it's not the same. Their sleep is often shallow, interrupted by dreams or thoughts. And when they wake up, they still feel tired. This pattern becomes a cycle. They feel drained during the day, but then come alive at night. So they stay up again, thinking and creating. Then they wake up tired again. It becomes harder and harder to break. INFJs are naturally drawn to solitude, and nighttime is when they finally get it. That's why they guard those hours so closely. But if they're not careful, it turns into a habit that steals their energy. Another reason they stay up late is because they don't want the day to end. If the day was full of stress or pressure, nighttime is when they finally feel like themselves. So they try to stretch it out to enjoy the freedom before the next day starts. But this only leaves them with less energy for tomorrow. That's why even doing nothing during the day doesn't help. If they spent the night thinking, dreaming, or stressing, their brain didn't rest. And no amount of couch time will fix that kind of tired. INFJs need rest just like everyone else, but real rest. Not just physical, but mental and emotional. And sometimes that means choosing stillness over late-night thinking, even when inspiration strikes. Reason number 6, perfectionism and internal pressure. INFJs hold themselves to very high standards. They may not show it openly, but inside, they're constantly pushing to be better, kinder, smarter, and more helpful. They expect themselves to show up perfectly for their work, their relationships, their future plans, and their personal growth. This pressure can become so intense that it drains their energy, even when no one is asking anything of them. The most exhausting part: much of this pressure is self-created. Even on a day with no plans, the INFJ might be thinking, I should be doing more, I didn't use my time well, or I could have helped someone today. They judge themselves not by what they did, but by what they could have done. And that creates a constant sense of falling short. This perfectionism doesn't always show up as trying to be perfect in front of others. It often comes as quiet self-criticism. They might be unhappy with how they reacted to something days ago. They may feel guilty for not answering a message fast enough. They may wonder if they've failed to live up to their purpose, even though no one else sees a problem. INFJs also tend to overplan and overprepare. They think about every detail before taking action, wanting things to go smoothly. They want to avoid mistakes, disappointments, or letting others down. While this makes them reliable and careful, it also wears them out before anything even happens. Even simple tasks, like sending an email or starting a project, can become draining if the INFJ feels they're not ready to do it just right. They'll overthink, second-guess, and stress about whether it's good enough. And all that mental strain happens before they even begin. This inner perfectionism comes from a deep desire to do meaningful work and be a good person. But when it goes unchecked, it creates invisible pressure that builds up and leads to burnout. What makes this so hard to spot is that INFJs don't usually complain. They keep moving, keep thinking, keep showing up. But inside, they're carrying self-doubt and frustration. And that weight, held in silence, is exhausting. It also makes rest difficult. When an INFJ tries to relax, their mind tells them they should be doing something productive. Instead of resting, they feel guilty. That guilt robs them of true rest and keeps the cycle going. That's why even a lazy day can leave an INFJ more tired than energized. They didn't meet their own expectations. And even if those expectations were impossible, they still feel the sting of letting themselves down. Breaking this cycle takes time. It means learning to be kind to themselves, to allow space for imperfection, and to rest without guilt. But until then, the quiet pressure of perfectionism remains one of the biggest drains on INFJ energy, even when nothing visible is happening. So why does the INFJ feel so exhausted, even when they didn't do much? It's not because they're lazy or weak. It's because they live in a world of constant internal movement. Their brain is always thinking. Their heart is always feeling. Their body is always reacting to the energy around them, even in silence. We've seen 6 powerful reasons behind this invisible exhaustion. They absorb emotions that aren't theirs. They overthink, replay, and analyze everything. They hold in stress, often without even realizing it. They feel overwhelmed by light, sounds, and clutter. They stay up at night thinking instead of sleeping. And they push themselves with impossible expectations, even on days off. For the INFJ, doing nothing on the outside often means doing too much on the inside. If you're an INFJ, you don't need to feel guilty for needing more rest. You're not broken. You're not behind. Your energy is being used in quiet, powerful ways that others don't always see. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. And it absolutely deserves care. Give yourself permission to pause. Not just to sit, but to truly rest. That means time without pressure, without guilt, without needing to fix everything. You don't have to earn your rest. You're already carrying more than most people know. And if you care for an INFJ, don't judge them for their quiet days. Those are recovery days, when they finally let go of the emotional, mental, and sensory weight they carry. What looks like stillness is actually healing. INFJs don't always ask for help. They don't always explain their tiredness, but they feel it deeply. And understanding the reasons behind it is the first step toward treating it with compassion.